All right. Hey, YouTube, I'm Lucky, and it's time for the Trials Meta Report. This is a long, ongoing series that I do where I break down the data and analyze the top 10 weapons from last weekend in Trials. There is no Trials this week, right? We've got Iron Banner, and whenever Iron Banner's out, they don't bring out Trials at the same time, so that way the populations don't have to fight against each other, making Trials honestly pretty miserable. If you were there around playing Trials back when the Iron Banner weeks were still live during Trials at the same time, it was bad. So I like these changes, and we're going to break down last week's data. And this might be the best and most interesting Trials Meta Report breakdown ever, because within the same season, we were able to see the same map played twice, both at the very beginning and at the very end. So we have Endless Veil was last week's map from February 11th to February 15th. And we also had Endless Veil and on December 24th to December 28th. So now we can see just how much the meta drastically changes from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, which is the reason why I really enjoy making this series. I love covering the meta in Trials of Osiris. I love playing Trials, obviously, but it's so fun to see how much things change. So let's go ahead and break this down together here. Number one most used weapon last weekend in Trials through February 11th was the Chaperone, was used the most. And if we go look over to the other chart, this would be the second week after, I think, the 30th anniversary event or around that time. The Chaperone is the number 2 most used weapon, so no surprises there. Everyone already knew the Chaperone was really good. Pellet shotguns had recently gotten a nerf, and so the slug shotguns began to arise, and now you can see the Chaperone's numbers are completely out of control to the point where it is getting nerfed with the Witch Queen. The number 2 most used weapon from last weekend Trials is Xur's main ingredient, and if we go back to December, we can see Xur's main ingredient is still in the top 3, so nothing too crazy there. Going down to the third one, though, this one's pretty interesting. The Palindrome rose to the top quite a bit. It's the number 3 most used weapon last weekend in Trials, and if we go back to December, it's all the way down at the number 9 spot, which is pretty crazy to see the drastic change between the Palindrome usage, but that probably just goes hand in hand with people using the Chaperone a lot more. You use the Chaperone, you're probably going to equip the Palindrome. The two go together hand in hand. The number 4 most used weapon is the Ice Luna, and that was actually number 1 in December, and I think that's probably because it was a newer weapon, so keep that in mind. Whenever new stuff is brought into the game, people, as a sort of trend, they want to try it out, and they get, behind the hype of it, like, oh, hey, this weapon has new perks, or maybe it can do this, do that, etc., and so people tend to use it a lot more, but you can see the Ice Luna's popularity and overall usage has fallen. It was number 1 in December, and it's fallen down to number 4. Going down to the 5th most used weapon last week, we have the Last Word, and that was actually number 6 in December, so Last Word has been very consistently in the top 10. I mean, it's been up there. And I'm really surprised that there's been no announcement and no adjustments to this weapon at all coming in the Witch Queen. This thing is going completely under the radar, and I think it's going to be pretty crazy and really strong in the Witch Queen. So if you haven't already been using the Last Word, especially if you're on the controller, this thing is just a beast, This is so good. Can't say enough about it. I was recently playing with controller, and I was using Last Word, and it just melts people's faces. The number 6 most used weapon last weekend in Trials in February is Lawrence Driver. And if we go to December, you can see no one was even using it back then. What the heck? This thing came out of nowhere. I don't remember there being a Lawrence Driver buff by any means. Did people just randomly find out about this weapon? As I can't remember there being a specific buff. If I'm wrong, comment it down below. But I'm pretty sure that people just started to realize that Lawrence Driver is ridiculously powerful from December until February. And it is, and it's getting a lot more flinch added to it accordingly. Going down to the next weapon, we have number 7 goes to the Felwinter's Lie, which earlier on in the season was number 5, so probably falling out of popularity largely due to the realization that it's going to get nerfed soon here. So maybe people started to adjust and realize maybe it's time to let go of the Felwinter's Lie, because that thing has been around for a long time, been very strong, very potent. The Dead Man's Tale goes down to the number 8 spot from last February's Trials, and then in December it was all the way up at the number 4 slot. So an interesting take on the Dead Man's Tale there. I'm surprised its usage didn't go up, but overall DMT pretty powerful weapon, and it will be getting a pretty hard nerf with the Witch Queen. The number 9 most used weapon is the Fatebringer, which was all the way, looks like the number 7 slot in December, so roughly around the same. And the 7th Seraph CQC shotgun got the 10th spot, and it doesn't even actually it does make it over there. So the number 8 spot in the top 10 in December. And we also noticed that the 1,000-yard stare is nowhere to be found. The 1,000-yard stare was not used last weekend in Trials. One thing I've noticed a lot is that these snipers, if they do make it in the top 10, it tends to be on a little bit bigger maps, and Endless Veil, obviously not a big enough map. And so we didn't see any snipers make it in February's Endless Veil, but it was there in December. So that's a wrap for the Trials meta report. Definitely some interesting data, and obviously when the Witch Queen goes live and all these crazy changes and all these new guns, I'm sure at least, well, 5 of these things are getting nerfed, one, and I'm sure there'll be at least 5 or 6 new things to replace them in the top 10, things we haven't seen before, and I'm kind of excited for it. Who knows what will be out there? Maybe that new Void Fusion will be really crazy. Maybe that'll be tearing up things in PvP. Either way, I think that Bungie has done a really good job overall. If you look at the population, the December Endless Veil had 250,960 players, and the very last weekend of Trials on a 6-month-long extended season during some of the driest content possible still hung in there with 242,000 players. That's a big W for Bungie. I mean, Bungie has to be absolutely ecstatic about that because Trials has very consistently dwindled down to such a low point consistently over the years. But Bungie has truly, with their recent Trials revamp, they've truly found a really good rhythm, and they can keep the player base really high. Even in the most dry, uninteresting weeks of Trials, they still had 242,000. That is unbelievably impressive. So Trials is honestly looking on the up and up and up, and looking like a really good place for Bungie. And it looks like they're going to be trying to apply some of those same principles to a big Gambit revamp that was recently mentioned in the TWAB. And I'm really excited for it. I'm excited to see if they could actually make Gambit a thing. I've said before in the past, Bungie should just delete Gambit. It's burned Bungie twice. It's burned the community twice. No one really is extremely passionate about Gambit. I know some people out there are going to comment down below, I love Gambit, and I get that, but you're a very small percentage of the Destiny player base. I promise you there's not that many people that are extremely passionate about Gambit. And if it does burn Bungie a third time with the Gambit revamp, I truly believe at that point in time, it's like, all right, stop revamping it, stop reworking Gambit, just delete it already. But I don't think they'll ever do that. I think Gambit will always just sort of hold this small place, and I really hope that Bungie chooses to give the majority of their focus to PvE and PvP, and occasionally sprinkle a thing or two into Gambit. That's my personal opinion. Let me know if you agree or disagree down in the comments below. That's the Trials meta report. Make sure to subscribe with notifications on if you did enjoy. Smash the like button. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Later.